Cinemajaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store. And we thank them for their support. You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from Rye's house in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is
Rye the Movie Guy. Usually, Matt, I would say sitting right alongside us is Filmy and Phil, but guess what, Jawheads? He got out of the jaw box, out of the fish tank, and he's on vacation.
We got to let Phil out every once in a while. Where did he go? Do you remember?
I already forget. I believe he's out in L.A., though, with some friends.
Okay, well, I'm sure he's having a great time without us. Boo.
Can we handle this by ourselves, Matt?
No, probably not. We'll do our best.
That's the big question, because it's a big show. This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, we are talking about Chris Pratt. We're talking about alien invasions and just aliens themselves, cool-looking ones.
Why don't we throw a little Nick Cage in there? Sort of goes with the whole alien invasion thing.
It sure does. We are also continuing our month of celebration with Scarlett Johansson, Matt.
Yay. I mean, another Scarlett Johansson thing that has come way too late in her career.
Yes, people are seeing Black Widow and they want to celebrate Scarlett Johansson.
Amen. Absolutely. She deserves it. She should be celebrated. And Rye, we have two reviews, as we sort of alluded to there. We have The Tomorrow War starring Chris Pratt and Pig starring the foolish Nicolas Cage.
The foolish one is back with a new movie. Just the title alone, Pig, raises some eyebrows.
You know what? He's doing these singular word title movies lately, and I am loving them. So can't wait to talk about Pig.
When you have a big podcast like this and fun topics, you need a fun guest to join us.
We do, Ryan. And boy, do we have one. Rejoining us for I forget how many times, but it's been a long while. James D'Amato, he's the author of the Ultimate RPG Backstory Guide and the host of the One Shot Podcast Network, will be back with us shortly. I can't wait to talk to him.
I agree. It has been far too long since we've had James on Cinemajaw. He was a regular at one time. He was on all the time. In fact, we played Jawheads. For our 500th episode, we played just only a couple of clips, very selective. And one of them was James D'Amato handing you the business on the Superman Clark Kent argument way back in the day. We love when the guests get riled up.
Yeah, we'll have to ask James. I can't remember exactly what we were arguing about. Maybe we can rehash that.
Well, when James comes on and we're reviewing a movie just titled Pig, I thought this is a good time for you to take James on in farm animal movie trivia.
Okay. Sounds
you like
good.
it?
I like it. Yes. You come up with these wonderful trivia topics, Rye.
Well, I try hard, Matt. I do.
You're doing a good job.
I'd like to impress the Jawheads.
I think you are. You're impressing me.
All right. Let's start this show off with a Scarlett Johansson fact, Matt.
All right, Rye. How about this? Scarlett Johansson was in the running to play Ryan Stone in Alfonso Cuarón's 2013 space thriller, Gravity. Obviously, Sandra Bullock got the role, earning her an Oscar nom for her performance in the blockbuster. But what a world it would have been if ScarJo had gotten that role. Can you imagine?
I have mixed feelings about this fact because, as you know, Matt, and I'm sure the Jawheads know, I am no fan of Sandra Bullock, but I love the film Gravity. And in fact, having watched Gravity now several times, it is by far Sandra Bullock's best role. I love her in the movie. And as much as I love Scarlett Jo, I think I would probably say, now seeing the finished product with Sandra Bullock, I would probably pick Sandra Bullock.
Wow. That's a bold statement. I'd take ScarJo over Sandra Bullock. I really would. Would have been a better movie.
I loved Gravity as is.
Well, tomato.
Tomato? You mean James D'Amato?
Wow,
Matt,
that's a great segue.
There you go. It's time to bring in our guest. As we mentioned, Jawheads, James had been on several times, and then I don't know what. We're going to get to the bottom of it. He just decided to not come on Cinemajaw anymore. He is the host of the One Shot podcast. It's a whole network, I believe, now. Yeah. James D'Amato, welcome back to Cinemajaw.
Hello, heroes. Thank you so much for having me back. It has been a very long time, and I was trying to think about exactly why I couldn't. I think like you asked me to come on 2 or 3 times, and I just couldn't make it those times. And then years
The calls
passed.
stopped coming.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll do it, James.
You can't turn down an opportunity like Cinemajaw. You really can't. They're vengeful people.
Well, James, we mentioned that you host One Shot. It is an RPG podcast. And when we had met you, One Shot was just beginning. So was Cinemajaw. And you were coming on. We were, sort of promoting each other's podcasts. And One Shot really took off for the Jawheads because they come and they go and there's new listeners. Explain to them what One Shot is exactly and the success you've had.
Yeah, I'll explain my success. So One Shot is a podcast where we invite actors, comedians, and other notable nerds to play role-playing games. We do one-shot adventures in a rotating series of role-playing games. Most people know Dungeons and Dragons as a tabletop role-playing game, but there are actually thousands of different games. And we invite people to try out these different games and sort of show off like the diversity and basically cool subject matters and designs that come out for role-playing games. And we do it through these recorded productions that at the end of the day kind of sound a little bit like a radio play. It is a really fun experience, whether you know RPGs or you have never tried or heard of an RPG before. I really recommend checking out the show. A lot of what we do is very cinematic, very experiential. There are so many cool, talented people who have been on the show, and we have tried out over 100 different games. So there is a lot to learn from that show. But I'm actually also the host of another podcast called Campaign Skyjacks, which is an ongoing story told using a role-playing system. The setting for it is kind of like sky pirates. It's inspired by the music of the Decemberists. So it's got a very folk tale, very sort of maudlin feel to it. I think it is a spectacular show. It's one of the things that I'm proudest of. Both of those are on the One Shot Podcast Network.
It's been a while. I'm a lapsed One Shot listener. I was listening to every single episode as soon as they came out for a number of years. And a couple of my favorites are Everyone is Joker. I mean, we're going way, way back. So basically, each player, each guest on your podcast is playing another aspect of the Joker's personality. Like, think one of them is Sid Caesar, and one of them is Heath Ledger and Jack Nicholson, etc. And then another one of my favorites was the Scooby-Doo in Lovecraft, where you guys were playing Scooby and the gang, but in a Lovecraft sort of setting. That was brilliant, dude. Brilliant. I still go back and listen to that one every once in a while.
It's so much fun. And like, I'm so blessed that, we have been around now. We recently passed the 400 episode mark. So we've been around a very long time, which means we've had the pleasure of doing so many different exciting games and telling so many really cool stories. And it's, the kind of show that you can jump in for an arc and then jump out. You don't have to start like at the beginning. You can start pretty much anywhere in our history and find something that you'll probably enjoy.
All right. I have some nerdy questions because over the pandemic, obviously there's been this huge boom in D&D, and I started playing again. I haven't played in maybe 20 years. And so now I'm DMing. I'm running a game for my family with my kids and my wife, right?
Oh, that's fun.
Can you give like 2 tips to like fledgling game masters? Because I would say you're probably one of the best game masters that I've had the pleasure of sitting at the table with. So what are like just a couple of tips to make their game better?
Yeah. The first thing that I recommend is really invest in collaboration. A lot of people see the GM role or DM role as you are performing a story for everyone. You have this story already built in your mind. You know where it's going to go and you're guiding people through it. I usually find games run that way are less successful. What you're really looking to do is run your game in a way that prioritizes the ideas and interests of the rest of the people at the table with you. The way I do that is, before we sit down for a new adventure, I ask my players, what's a cool, interesting thing that you think is in this town? Who is an interesting or, important person in this town? And let them flesh out the world a little bit, because when you take one of their ideas and you put it into your campaign, all of a sudden they care about it so much more.
Yeah.
There's kind of like a classic role-playing joke that the party is never interested in the things that I want to do, or they don't care about my major NPCs or my plot. And usually it's because you aren't really doing things that they are invested in.
Yeah.
If you give them an opportunity to collaborate with you in building that world, and you sort of follow their desires, I think you're going to find that they are much more excited and they are much more invested in your plot, and everybody will have more fun.
Great advice.
Sage advice.
Absolutely. James, I was going to ask, now that you mentioned you'd been doing this 400 episodes, you've played a lot of games. When you're not recording a podcast and it's the weekend, can you just play a game, or now are you confuse the two and you're like, damn it, I've done that enough?
Oh, no. I definitely play recreationally. For my birthday, my spouse and I played my favorite role-playing game of all time. It is a game called Star-Crossed. It is a 2-player romance role-playing game where you play 2 characters who really, really want to be together, but they have a really good reason keeping them apart. And instead of rolling dice or using cards or anything like that to resolve the game, there is a Jenga tower in the middle of the table. And every time you do something that increases intimacy between these characters, whether it's revealing information about your character, or, perhaps touching the other character, creating some sort of physical contact, you pull a brick from that Jenga tower. And if one of you should happen to knock over the tower, the player, the character belonging to the player who did it, has to reveal or act on their feelings in some way. So there's a point in the game where, these characters are attracted to each other, but there's not much that's developed between them. So if it falls over too soon, it's not going to work out for these characters. And if you can also play an entire game where the tower never falls over, where the tension between these 2 characters simmers and gets to a boiling point, but never quite reaches an end, and, they just walk away. Or you pull just the right number of bricks.
Do you ever intentionally,
the tower falls over and they fall madly in love?
Do you try to knock it over at a certain point in the game? You
can voluntarily knock over the tower if you like. If you go, I don't see any other way for this to go, my character is acting on their feelings now, you can push over the tower and end the game that way too.
Star-crossed, huh?
Star-crossed. It is a thrilling game. Like most of the stakes in role-playing games are, life and death, like fantasy, adventure, sci-fi. All of these genres are very action focused. And for a lot of role-playing games, combat is a big focus of it. But there's nothing of that in Star-crossed. The stakes are 2 characters being interested in each other, and it's a question of whether or not they have the courage, or whether society will allow, or whether they will be flexible with their values or whatnot, to actually act on those feelings. And kind of that's a situation that we've almost all been in at some point in our life. So it's very identifiable. And playing this game, I always find that I am so much more invested in, these characters like saying the smallest thing to one another than I am with, and any story where like, oh, you have to fight this horde of enemies and you might die.
Orcs, yeah.
Or get treasure or whatnot. No, this is it, because I've been in these situations and like I'm feeling that as I'm playing the game. It's great.
Well,
That is awesome.
it's date night for me next Saturday.
For sure. We'll talk to James about the book that he wrote after the break. For now, James, the Jawheads listening that want to check out the podcast, where should we send them online?
So if you want to check out the One Shot Network and all of the wonderful podcasts we do, you can head over to oneshotpodcast.com. Or you can just open your favorite podcast app, search for James D'Amato, search for One Shot, search for Campaign Skyjacks. That'll pull up my shows.
Yeah. And of course, we'll have links in all the show notes for the Jawheads. Convenience.
James, it is Scarlett Johansson month here on Cinemajaw.
Mm.
Going to ask you your favorite Scarlett Johansson movie, and are you a fan overall of ScarJo?
Man, favorite Scarlett Johansson movie. I guess I did like her. I thought that was kind of a fun movie. The premise was interesting, and I think she did a good job with it.
Which movie?
Her.
Oh, her. When you said I did like her,
AI.
yeah, that flew right by me.
I did like her. But as far as Scarlett Johansson, like I will say, some of the moves that she has made left a bitter taste in my mouth, which actually makes, a lot of the franchises that she is a part of, I enjoy it less because I look at that and go, boy, did you really need to book this role that is for an Asian character? When you are not an Asian person, when an Asian actress could probably have taken that role, like. And it kind of feels to me like Scarlett Johansson, playing Black Widow, being a part of one of the largest cinematic franchises ever. She could do whatever, she really could do whatever. And she's also like gone after these, Oscar contender roles, like, her role in Her. I think definitely you could
Marriage
see that
Story.
as like, yeah, Marriage Story too. Like she doesn't need some of the work. It makes me get an icky feeling. It's hard to feel good about that. I've liked her in movies. I like her performances and things, especially like she is very good with stunts, very good with like physicalized characters, like what she did in her first appearance with Black Widow. I thought was great. But at the end of the day, it's the outside of frame stuff that's happening that makes me enjoy those things less, which I think is a shame.
Don't totally
Well
disagree
said, though.
with you at all.
Well said. I like it. So James is sitting in on this entire jaw. He has also seen the Tomorrow War and is going to join the discussion that we are going to have after that, Matt. And that leads us right into said movie.
Chris Star-Lord Pratt is back for another attempt at a hit outside of the MCU and I guess the Jurassic period. This time, he has a time-jumping soldier fighting an alien invasion and saving his family kind of movie in The Tomorrow War.
3, 2, 1. In 11 months' time, all human beings in the future will be wiped from the face of the earth. Unless you help us.
I was trying to save my daughter. If I gotta save the world to save her, then I'm gonna do it.
This is the end. The human species will disappear from the face of the earth. We are literally living on borrowed time.
There's still a chance that we can stop this war from ever happening. So we gotta fight.
Well, it's nice knowing you.
After being delayed and sold to Amazon due to COVID, The Tomorrow War has finally debuted on Prime. The film is about Dan Forrester, a former Army Ranger who works as a high school science teacher. Dan is making moves trying to join a prestigious research facility, but those moves seem to be failing. Despondent, he sits to watch the World Cup with his young daughter Muri when soldiers from the future appear on the pitch. The soldiers explain that in the year 2051, aliens known as the White Spikes, not to be confused with the band the White Stripes, have attacked and left humanity on the brink. So now the only hope for the human race is to travel forward 30 years, I guess back for the future people, and recruit soldiers for the future war. Wouldn't you know it? Dan gets drafted. Honestly, it's all better if you don't think about it too much. What follows is a pretty decent, if not exactly cerebral, science fiction action flick. Tomorrow War might have been a fun summer blockbuster had it gotten its chance in the theater. Pratt is likable, as is Yvonne Strahovski, who plays future colonel that he plays against. The aliens are cool and scary. The action is fun and frenetic without being disorienting. All things said, The Tomorrow War plays like an 80s, early 90s throwback, and that's a good thing, Rye. I went into Tomorrow War with the lowest of expectations, having been let down by Pratt too many times before, but I was pleasantly surprised. There is a strange pacing issue. The true climax of the film takes place at the close of the second act, which gives the start of the third act a bit of a drag. But honestly, given the time-jumping theme of the movie, I think that's largely forgivable. Also, speaking of themes, PTSD and abandonment, they're fine. I think they're explored adequately, if not deftly. Plus, J.K. Simmons is always a treat. Bottom line, The Tomorrow War is a surprisingly solid action sci-fi romp that you should just unplug the brain and have some fun with.
I was really digging this movie, and then the last 40 minutes happened, and I was not a fan of that final act. And you said it's forgivable because it's time jumping. I don't think so, Matt. And in fact, I did something I almost never do, and that is I broke this movie into two viewings. Because I had terrible time management over the 4th of July holiday, I had a party to go to. I was watching this movie.
Don't make excuses, Ryan.
Watch the movie, totally digging it. And this time jump happens, and I hit the break. We all know where it happens. It's more or less like you said, Matt. The climax in the movie happens 2/3 of the way through. And I thought, okay, good time to pause. I'll leave the rest for tomorrow. I was really high up on the movie. And then the next day, I have a cup of coffee, finish the movie, and I'm like, what did they do to my movie? I was going to give this a very positive review, and then it just went downhill in that final act. When they bring up the theory to the army generals that they may know where these aliens came from and there's a way to stop them, and then the army general just sort of laughs them off like, we don't have time for this. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
It's just an existential threat to all of humanity. We don't have time for that.
And we're watching a movie where people are time jumping and stuff's going on, but they're not going to believe something pretty believable. Come on.
This movie is so frustrating in that it is completely disinterested in playing with its own rules, like its own time travel rules that it sets up. Every time, like there are so many times during this movie where I would turn to my spouse and go, but they're time traveling. Like, why isn't sending back military intelligence the major advantage that we have in this?
Oh, yeah.
Why are they not using the time travel? You should know every time your enemy is going to attack because you already understand that. You've had that knowledge for 50 years. Maybe I wasn't paying full attention in this movie, but like if this was a sort of thing like, well, it's time travel, but we're actually moving to a separate universe or something, if that was actually the premise that we were going with, I would feel kind of better about it, less head up about this, because some of the emotional beats of this movie make no sense. Like every time something happened in the future, I'd be like, but this hasn't happened yet, Christopher. You can solve this. All you have to do is go back in time. Like they have so many downbeats where I'm like, no, you've won. You already won. Why isn't everybody celebrating the fact that you had a victory already? So I guess the big problem with this movie, right, is that time travel and aliens aren't the only thing. The problem with this movie is that there's another sci-fi concept layered onto this movie. It's that this takes place in an alternate universe where no one is smart. And that is the reason that so many of the troubles and trials and tribulations happen in this movie, is because nobody acts in a way that is even remotely intelligent.
I completely agree. But was it fun? I mean, I kind of had fun.
We're going to get to this when we talk about time travel movies. And it's a point that I'm going to bring up. But James hits it right on the head, because when the movie tries to be, and I'm using air quotes here, smart, is when the movie stumbles at its absolute most. When it's trying to have fun and you got these crazy looking aliens and there's a huge fight and action sequences, it does it really well. But when it comes down to the point of actually thinking about what everything matters with the time travel, it's just idiotic. I hate movies with time travel where they're rushing to do something 30 years in the future. So they're training these soldiers, Chris Pratt being one of them, to send them into the future 30 years or 20 some years into the future. But yet when they're training them, they make it sound like it's a complete rush. Like we have to do this and hurry up and get to the war. Like, guys, you got 20 years to train these guys.
Well, they do kind of attempt to explain that by saying that the time link is like 2 rafts in a river, but the rafts are still moving.
Right.
So time only moves linear.
Still,
I didn't buy it.
Yeah, and it's like, and the 2 rafts metaphor, because I was like, that okay, this is where they're establishing their time travel rules. Using the 2 rafts metaphor to me indicates that things that you do in the past should affect what happens in the future, which means that like what they are doing should be preparing for all of like, it's like, well, let's build up a war machine to protect ourselves 30 years in the future. No, we're taking people who live now and using them as extra bodies in the future, and also refusing to train them to fight the actual threat that they are going to face, which was tremendously frustrating to me, because like I will say the monster in this movie, the alien design, is
white
pretty
stripes?
cool. Yeah, they like, you know, it looks good. It's got a terrible name. Could have spent more than 2 seconds on that name. I really don't know how somebody. Anyway, it's a very cool looking monster, but it's not more terrifying than really anything we've seen on screen before. And their excuse for not training people to shoot at the thing that you are sending them into the future to shoot at was, well, we thought if people knew what it looked like, nobody would do this. And it's like, bud, that's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. Like, there's some really creepy things that like we make plush toys out of in our world today. If you want your movie monster to be so terrifying that nobody would like go to fight it, you can't show it on the screen. You absolutely can't show it on the screen.
Right. It's got, or
you
like
need to be more ambitious than you were.
Right. I do want to give the filmmakers a little credit here. They built up a pretty good amount of anticipation to finally see the white spikes. A lot of times we don't see these, we see the monsters almost too quick. There was probably about 30 minutes into the movie, the whole concept that they're going to get ready to travel, the idea that they didn't see them. I will say the very first time we see these white spikes, I was excited just to
finally see one. Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
It is a monster design that doesn't look bad on camera either. Like once you see these things, they're everywhere and you're just going to keep seeing them. But it does look cool. It does look compelling. It is a fun thing in an action scene, which is a hard thing to straddle, to have a movie monster that, you know, can be looming and intimidating off camera, but is also like fun to watch in an action set piece. And like very few actually do that. Like you've got the xenomorphs from Aliens and the Predator are the only ones that like are playing both sides of that coin. I think that did admirably, which made me more frustrated about the aspects that were not as strong.
I'll push back on one point that Ryan made about the pacing, because I did sit through, and maybe it was because you broke it up that fell down, but the fact that it had that climax in the middle didn't leave me flat for the third act. It did take a little bit of the wind out of the sails, but I thought it did an adequate job picking it back up. But it was refreshing. At least it wasn't that 3-act structure that we're so familiar with. At least they played with it a little bit in a time travel movie, and I'll give them credit for that.
The movie was already dumb, but it was dumb like in a what I would consider a turn your brain off. This is dumb. You know, we're ignoring some things. Right. Yeah, it was dumb.
Produced by Chris Pratt, by the way.
After this, when he gets back, the dumb gets turned up 10 times. He's brought the war-winning MacGuffin. He's got it in his hand. It survives. It doesn't break or whatever. And they're like, war-winning MacGuffin, we've lost. No, you've got 30 years to win, my guy. And they go through to bring it to yet another climax that feels like it is out of nowhere.
But we needed some more J.K. Simmons. That's why I mean, hey, and I love it. And J.K. Simmons was a really bright star in this movie, as was Sam Richardson. But like, it hinges on a bunch of like stupid movie nonsense. Where like, you know, one of the kids in Chris Pratt's classroom is like, has the secret geological knowledge. That was actually some good writing, I thought.
That was the worst part. Oh, did I put names on that? I was like rolling my eyes.
Because this is an extinction level threat. And for literally no reason, because we are in an alternate universe where nobody is smart, nobody wants to listen to people who actually have the solution. Like they've got it in a vial. And in fact, it was the whole thing that everybody in the future was trying to do. But for some reason, everybody in the future refused to tell people in the past that's what they were trying to do, which is also insane. Like, it gets to the point where so many stupid movie dominoes get lined up that I can't overlook the stupid parts anymore, because I'm having to forgive too much to enjoy the admittedly really fun action and also pretty fun banter between Pat and Chris Pratt and Sam Richardson and J.K. Simmons. That's all gold. I loved it. It feels like they, just like another pass at writing would have fixed this.
Maybe.
But I can't point to a simple solution because so much of the movie is stuck in dumb stuff.
I love it. James is hot.
He's on fire. Yeah.
I love it. Matt, was there a jaw-dropping moment in the Tomorrow War?
The first jump. I mean, speaking of stupid things, how they miscalibrate the jump, and I don't want to spoil it because that was one of the better moments. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, oh man, really? That's pretty brutal. What happened to these recruits, these draftees? Ouch. But that was pretty cool. I mean, I want to say the special effects of that scene were done very well, and the brutality of the aftermath. At that point, I was still really on board for the movie. It hadn't quite shown its depth of stupidity yet.
Yeah.
Go ahead, James. That plays right into Rye's point where like there was actually like a kind of fun, good sci-fi movie in the first half of this thing. And they really couldn't back up their own ideas. Like, so a lot of this like had heavy PTSD themes. Yeah. Really wanted to talk about the draft. And also because J.K. Simmons' character like was tied up with Vietnam. Like clearly that was one of the thematic elements that they wanted to put up. By the way, he's got to be spaces
20 years too young for Vietnam. I mean, J.K. Simmons is old, but he's not that old.
Yeah, but it's a movie, whatever.
Okay.
So like, like that's something that I can ignore because it's just like how old an actor is, who cares? So like they wanted to talk about some of these things, and like there's also meaty concepts to dive in on, and the fact that like, oh yeah, we're in a world that doesn't seem willing to take the steps it needs to save itself and whatnot. But when we get to the future, it can't support those themes, and it feels like a child wearing their parents' clothes to play dress up. It's like, I've got all these big themes on me. Look at me walking around in these boots.
Yeah. Oh man, I wish the Jawheads could see the video for this, Matt. This is good stuff. For me, I would say the jaw-dropping moment is right after. Yes, I love the jump that you mentioned, Matt, and then I alluded to it already. The first time we see the white spikes and that first battle, the anticipation and it lived up to it. It was exciting to finally see the action on screen. That was my like wow moment.
Nice. How many jaws you giving this thing?
2.5 jaws for Tomorrow War. How about you, Matt?
That's interesting. I mean, that's exactly where I landed. So out of a 4-jaw scale, it's a little better than middle of the road. It's 2.5 jaws for me as well.
James, 4 jaws scale. Where do you put this at?
I think it's a solid 2 jaws. Like this is a movie that I'm not going to reject outright, but I'm not going to seek it out, and I'm not going to show it to someone.
I wrote a movie poster quote here, Rye.
Love to hear it, Matt.
The Tomorrow War reaches for Predator, Aliens, and Independence Day, but doesn't quite make the jump.
Yeah, it should have been as stupid as Independence Day. If it could have hit that mark, this would have been a fantastic.
I agree.
Almost does.
I agree.
It's close.
My movie poster quote, Matt, was from yesterday's news, Tomorrow War is decent.
Okay. Ooh. That's confusing, but
I've got a movie poster quote as well. With the $200 million budget of this movie, they could have reseeded and reforested 1 million acres of forest, which with the climate change theme of this movie, really is a stark thing. Maybe not a good movie poster quote, but 1 million acres of forest would have been better than this movie for sure.
Yeah, but you're probably right.
Jawheads, Tomorrow War is streaming exclusively on Amazon Prime. If you have seen it and you agree with us, disagree, want to comment on this review, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw, or you can email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. One of the first questions I wanted to launch here with the discussion, being an alien invasion movie, is, Matt, do you have a favorite alien invasion film?
I mentioned Independence Day. That's high up on my list, but I have to go with like one of the classics, like Day of the Triffids. I mean, that's probably where I'm landing, or maybe Night of the Comet. Both of those are pretty darn good.
I don't think I've seen either of those, to be honest.
Great B movie alien invasion ones. Or Day the Earth Stood Still, which I'm sure is also on nobody's list. Another great one. Not the Keanu Reeves one, although not a bad remake.
I struggled with this one because I don't think I could do this in terms of favorite. I will say, when I was watching this movie, my thoughts kept turning to another alien invasion movie with a time travel premise and also an objectionable male lead. And that was The Edge of Tomorrow, starring Tom Cruise. That was a super fun movie that was also extremely stupid, and managed to jump over those stupid hurdles to where I got really invested in it. That was kind of the benchmark that I was measuring this movie by. So yeah, I'd say Edge of Tomorrow is probably that, but I love me a Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim's great.
I love Pandemonium when the aliens come in, the invasion and all hell's breaking loose, major attack scene. And that led me to the 2005 remake War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg, Tom Cruise, just an unbelievable opening attack by the aliens where they're just basically incinerating all the humans as the beams sort of hit them, just popping on screen everywhere. I love it. And in fact, I've seen the 1953 version at Movies in the Park, and for an old movie, plays really well, completely different than the Spielberg tension that he gets with that major attack scene. But don't sleep on it. The 1953 version, well worth a spin as well.
There's some great 50s alien stuff just in general. I agree.
One other one I wanted to bring up, Matt, was a film that I caught last year right around Halloween, which was Slither, James Gunn's early work, in which it's more or less like an alien parasite that crashes and starts to invade all the different bodies. And that also made me think of The Thing, which is also another alien-like creature that invades people's bodies. I love those small parasites.
Yeah, so I was holding back because I wanted Ryan to be able to talk about The Thing. The Thing is the best alien invasion movie, and like the best by so many different metrics. Ryan, you really surprised me by not bringing up The Thing earlier. The Thing is so good. It's so good. It is the perfect alien invasion movie because it is a pressure cooker. Like Pandemonium, I can understand. Like that is a fun thing to do with an alien premise. But I really do like a movie where you've got a few characters because you can really invest in their problems. And also, all of these characters are reacting to their situation intelligently and honestly. So when somebody dies in that movie, I'm like, well, you know, you didn't intentionally do something so stupid that of course you died. It's like, you're dealing with a nearly impossible situation. Like, yeah, you died. And all of the survival moves they make, I go, man, you know, that was a pretty clever solution.
You're right about everything you said about The Thing, but you're wrong because there are two alien invasion movies that are better. Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Okay.
And
those are clowns. Those are clowns.
Critters, both. Hey,
see,
Critters
now
gave us
you're
Leonardo
just not
DiCaprio. Okay,
Well, not the first Critters. That was
You're
Critters
right.
3.
Critters, was it 3? Jesus.
We'll throw it in the jaw box to confirm that.
Okay.
I mean, you're just being disingenuous.
Yes, I am. I'm joking. I agree with you. The Thing is probably the best.
The other thing, no pun intended, that I love about The Thing is the isolation of the group. That always enhances a movie when they're in like the Arctic like that, in such a strange environment already. They have nowhere to go. That enhances the fear. I love it.
One of the things that lazy writing, but okay.
Oh, come on, man.
Oh, no. That's solving a lot of dumb like you don't have to ask a bunch of stupid questions then because you'll die in the cold. That's
Contain the story. Contain the story.
All right. Okay. All right.
All right. Now, one thing that we all gave credit to the Tomorrow War was the look of the white spikes. probably the highlight of the movie is the idea that these creatures got these weird tentacle things, pretty scary looking in general. Matt, where does it stack up in great looking aliens? Do you have one in mind that tops it?
I mean, I think the one that's going to pop into everyone's mind first is the xenomorph, but that's not where I went with this. I mentioned the killer clowns. I do like their look. They're hard to top because they're so punk rock and cool looking. But I'm going with the Martians from Mars Attacks with those big bulbous brains. They're played a little bit for laughs, but if you take a step back from that and remember that they came out first as these Topps trading cards with not a touch of irony, they're pretty scary. They've got these skull faces and these giant brains with the ray guns. They're such a classic design. And if you remove the comedy, like I said, take a step back, scary, cool creature design.
Yes, Xenomorph, I really can't argue that I think is one of the best alien designs in the history of cinema. It's really cool. It looks really gross and fun. The thing I did put on my list was the shapeshifter from The Thing. Though I would push back against this and go, does it even count as an alien design? Because it's so many different things. It's kind of like a style of abstract representation of a horror rather than a single design for a creature. Individual parts of the thing, like I don't think are nearly as iconic as a xenomorph, but the fact that it, like, if I'm looking at its design, not just visually, but baking into its design of like, this is how it's a threat in a certain scenario, then the thing is off the charts because the thing can look like anything and you can't trust anything, which adds a whole level of paranoia to the plot. I wanted to avoid talking about it because it's so good. And there's really nothing intelligent that you could say that's more intelligent than the film itself.
So there's a few that I want to mention here because I like aliens and the look of them for different reasons. When you've done so many in film, you got to start to get creative nowadays. And so newer looking aliens that are something different that we hadn't seen. And there I want to mention the aliens from Arrival with Amy Adams.
Okay.
And these were like, you actually don't even see.
That's such an art house answer right there.
Yeah, but you don't actually see the aliens like really well. They're always behind this like mist. They're really large. You don't even see exactly how tall the aliens are. They're sort of got these like squid-like tentacles that release an ink into the air, which is how they communicate. Just a very different take on what an alien would look like if it, came and tried to communicate with us. So I wanted to mention that one. But when we're talking about ugly and disgusting aliens, how about the prawns from District 9?
Good one. Yeah, I like that. They were pretty cool.
Yeah, and they were just gross.
Were visually striking.
Yes. Yeah. And seeing somebody transform into one of them was grotesque, so it worked for me.
They kind of remind me of the character from Oddworld. Do you remember that video game?
Yes. Yeah.
They sort of maybe took a design cue from that game.
And then last is we saw the sequel just a couple weeks ago, The Aliens from a Quiet Place. I really like the design of these aliens and their super sharp sense of hearing and the way their heads more or less open up so that they can keep hearing deeper and deeper the smallest of sounds. That whole entire design of the way the alien looks, I got to give them credit there.
If we're doing honorable mentions, the aliens from Attack the Block. So cool. Such a great trick in their design. They looked super rad, and it made that movie really visually compelling.
I throw a quick honorable. The little smoking guys from Men in Black. I mean, they're almost a throwaway, but they're so charming that they sort of stuck pop culturally. So
Men in Black was on my short list of good alien invasion movies, but I crossed it off because I couldn't justify it actually being an alien invasion movie.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, well, let's switch gears here and stop talking about aliens and get back to time travel, which we all agree the Tomorrow War didn't do the best job of when it comes to time traveling. My question is this: what makes a good time travel film?
I can pop in here with one word: rules. That's what makes a good time travel movie. The rules can be silly, they can be funny, they can be dead serious, but whatever the rules are, they have to be established and followed in order for it to be a good, cohesive time travel film. That's my 2 cents.
I agree with Matt's assessment entirely. What I had written down was plays by its own rules, but has fun. That's an important caveat to me because, Back to the Future, that's a movie that plays by its own rules and is a delight. Primer plays by its own rules, and I will watch Tomorrow War again before I ever watch Primer again.
Really? Oh,
God,
wow.
what a boring movie. What a boring. Oh, was it made for $300? It looks that way and it feels that way.
Shame on you, James. Shame on you. Primer is excellent.
Oh, cool. Oh, really? Have you heard about Primer 2 and how interesting and fun it's going to be? No, because everybody looks at that movie and knows it's not going to be interesting and fun. It's got to, if it's going to have time travel, it's got to have fun. It's beloved by the most pedantic people in the world. And I can say that to you.
I disagree.
Because Matt, you have a movie podcast. You are obviously one of the most pedantic people in the world. But, also, I love you guys. I understand that you have to form a little circle around this bad movie and claim that you love it, even
totally
though
shame on you, James.
Like choking on ashes to watch it every time. That's fine.
The
That's
jawheads
fine.
who have
You're
seen
allowed
Primer out there are so pissed right now at James D'Amato. Boy,
I look forward to your angry tweets defending Primer.
Did you see Upstream Color, his follow-up?
I did not. I'll give you one guess.
Also
why.
great. Also great.
I very
Actually,
much
I
did
think
not enjoy the first movie that
you might like Upstream Color. Rye talked me into watching it and I loved it. Primer is slow. It's definitely an acquired taste, but it's like, did you ever watch Aronofsky's first movie, Pi?
I did. I wasn't a fan of Pi either, to be honest.
Right.
I liked the premise for Pi a lot more than I liked the film itself.
It is a difficult film because of its low quality. Is that what turned you off?
The thing that turned me off is I like cosmic horror. I think it is very difficult to do on film in a way that feels good. Like I understand the director is trying to convey to me ideas that inherently can't be understood, which means the director is wasting my time at the end of the day.
All right, wait, real quick audible here. Best cosmic horror movie then?
So I struggle with this a lot because it's something that I deeply love, but I rarely see it done in a way that I appreciate. I am going to say The Void, even though The Void is a movie that I think is a bad movie. There are a lot of cool things that happen in that movie that I like, and a lot of really terrible things that happen in that movie that I hate, but also like it's something that engages with cosmic horror and kind of feels like a cosmic horror story.
Can I throw The Mist out there to you? You like that one?
So The Mist, I think, tried to be too edgy. At least like the remake of The Mist, like the new one. I was just like, oh, come on. Whatever. Like that didn't even happen in the short story. Like you're being a real tough guy by making The Mist that way. It was fun, but like at the end of the day, The Mist also kind of felt like, oh, this is just another horror movie. This is just another like monster movie and not quite cosmic horror-y. Like in The Void, at least there are a lot of things happening that people didn't understand, which was kind of neat. It did like it wanted to play with too many toys at the same time, but all of the cosmic horror elements, like where that film ends up, like that was kind of fun. So
I got to rewatch The Void. It's been a long, long time.
Yeah, I've seen The Void actually just last year.
Lighthouse is the best cosmic horror movie.
Oh, that's a good one right there. I love The Lighthouse. Big fan. Good one. I was going to say I didn't even answer what makes a good time travel movie.
Oh, sorry, Ryan.
Cosmic horror all of a sudden. So if I could go back in time and answer the question, I more or less did when we were talking about Tomorrow War in the review. Two things: either commit to it and be really brainy and smart like Primer, which we all love, or go a little silly, go Back to the Future and just go with it as is and don't overthink it too much. You got to pick one of the two. But if you go with it being sort of silly and then try to be too smart, it never works out. So pick a lane, one or the other.
Yeah, we're all pretty much on the same page there. All right, I got a question for you fellas. Speaking of things that annoy us, Chris Pratt. So is he an A-list star at this point?
I guess.
I mean, it's kind of irrefutable, right? It's difficult to deny that he is A-list status.
Yeah, I mean, like it's always been an abstract concept what an A-list actor is, and I feel like as time wears on, the thing that an A-list actor is sort of like loses meaning to a certain extent. Chris Pratt certainly isn't like a Hollywood royalty type actor. Like, you look at a Robert Downey Jr., a person who's got their own little objectionable things going on, but like, at least that person's like, yeah, this is a person who can helm a big franchise movie and also, go after an Oscar. Like, Leonardo DiCaprio is somebody who unfortunately is like that as well.
RDJ has not gone after an Oscar in a very long time.
He hasn't, but he can. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's true.
He can have that Oscar turn. And like, I think in those Oscar movies, he kind of backs up his quest. Like,
that's true.
Regardless of results. Chris Pratt, I don't see that way, but it's undeniable that this person, like, if you put him in something, that thing is going to do pretty well. Even if it's bad, like his Jurassic Park entries are pretty bad, but they do keep making them and they do keep bringing Chris Pratt to be in them. So
this is true. I was all on board the Chris Pratt train when Guardians of the Galaxy came on. I was front row, right? I was like, oh my God. Yeah. And then a couple of duds, the Jurassic World, and then one that we haven't mentioned, Passengers. Him, Jennifer Lawrence, it looked like, oh my God, this can't miss. And it completely flopped. It was a bore. I didn't like it. I think his problem is he doesn't pick the best projects. I don't
know if that's it.
He's got the charisma. I think what he needs is he needs to hook up with a director that knows how to get the best out of him and work with that director 3-4 times. DiCaprio's got Scorsese. Harrison Ford had Spielberg and Lucas. Some of them, sometimes you get somebody that knows how to use exactly what you can give to the big screen. And I think Chris Pratt's charisma can carry a movie, but I don't think he's picking the right projects and working with the right people all the time.
I think the core of it is that he's a bad man, right? He's just like a bad person.
Is he? Is he a bad person?
I mean, the way his marriage ended, not to get gossipy, but the way his marriage ended left a real bad taste in my mouth.
See, I don't know about all the gossip.
Also, like the church that he attends is like very specifically like violently homophobic. So like there's a lot as a queer person, like I had a lot of very warm feelings to Chris Pratt after Parks and Rec, and certainly accompanying Guardians of the Galaxy. But the more his career has gone on, and the more we have seen the choices that Chris Pratt makes in his private life, it's like, oh, this guy isn't fun to know about. So like I can also see him just, saying yes to whatever, like not picking good projects, doesn't matter. The thing I'll say, he's entertaining to watch. Like at the end of the day, like I'm going to see the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie because partially that cast rules, and he is one of the elements of that cast that makes it enjoyable to watch. So
yeah, I agree.
Before we end this and go to break, we can't go on a downer of James disliking and dissing Primer. So since you don't like it, James, how about a hidden gem time travel movie that you would recommend to the Jawheads?
Yeah, Jawheads, if you are out there so excited about how smart Primer thinks it is, I've got a fun movie for you that's actually good and enjoyable to watch, and it's called Your Name. Brilliant movie, great time travel premise, so much fun. It combines all of the joy of Freaky Friday with all of the fun of Groundhog Day. This movie rules. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And even though it has very serious moments, and I think is a deeply impactful film, it also has fun with itself, which makes it a good movie.
I have never seen Your Name. That's the name of it?
Oh.
Your Name?
Yeah, it's called Your Name. It is an anime. It is a Japanese film. It's spectacular. Do yourself a favor and, rent it, watch it as soon as you can. Again, this is one of my favorite movies of all time.
James, on your recommendation, I will do that.
After you watch that movie, put that movie next to Primer and ask yourself, which of these movies do I want to watch more?
We can live in a world where they're both good movies, though. It doesn't have to be one.
I mean, I wish we could live in that world, but unfortunately we don't because Primer's not.
Maybe in an alternate timeline.
I have not seen Your Name either. I threw it in the Jaw box. We're going to see if it's streaming on any one of the major streamers. We'll let the Jawheads know, Matt.
Awesome. We mentioned Primer. We've talked about it to death. And I've talked about this film before for Hidden Gem. If you want a good indie movie that's probably more about relationships than time travel, although time travel is a big theme in the film, safety not guaranteed. Based on a real ad. It's a cool meta story. Seek it. I liked it. Great little indie gem. What about you, Rye? You got one?
Yeah, I was going to mention Primer also, but we've talked about it to death. But how about the 2003 movie About Time? It was starring Rachel McAdams and Domhnall Gleeson. Gleeson plays a guy who finds out from his dad that the males in the family can time travel. And he time travels to try to get one girl to fall in love with him. It doesn't work out. Comes back to present time, starts to fall in love with Rachel McAdams, but his best friend is having an issue that he realizes he can fix by time traveling again. But when he does that and comes back to the present, it screws up the relationship with Rachel McAdams, and it's a great.
They get in the hot tub after that, right? And
you're thinking Hot Tub Time Machine.
Oh, okay.
A great little gem.
But Hot Tub Time Machine shouldn't be missed. It's a decent comedy.
It's surprisingly good, actually.
Yeah. All right, Jawheads, if we missed your favorite hidden gem, or if you just want to comment about how off James is on Primer, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw or email us feedback@cinemajaw.com.
And we promise we will forward all of those to James so he can hear how wrong he is.
Yeah. And Jawheads, if you have not seen Your Name, go watch Your Name and tweet me about that, because I just love hearing more people enjoying that movie.
We are going to take a break. When we come back, we have a review of Pig. Plus, James is taking Matt on in Farm Animal movie trivia. Stick with us.
Hey Jawheads, it's Matt Kay. Scarlett Johansson's been around for such a long time, it's easy to take her for granted sometimes, especially when lately she's been best known for appearing in action sci-fi movies. But just recently, she reminded us of just how deep her talent goes in the movie Marriage Story.
My work is here now. My family is here.
And I agreed to put Henry in school here because your show went to series. I did that knowing that when you were done shooting, he would come back to New York.
Honey, we never said that. That may have been your assumption, but we never expressly said that.
We did say it.
When did we say it?
I don't know when we said it, but we said it. We said it at the time on the phone.
Honey, let me finish. Sorry, I keep saying that. I thought that if Henry was happy here and my show continued, that we might do LA for a while.
I was not privy to that thought process.
Oh, the only reason we didn't live here is because you can't imagine desires other than your own, unless they're forced on you.
Okay, you wish you hadn't married me, you wished you had a different life, but this is what happened.
So what do we do?
I don't know.
Nora says there's no coming back from this.
Fuck Nora. Hey, fucking Nora telling me I always lived in LA, even though I never lived in LA. How could you ever say those things about me?
Jay said them about me too. You shouldn't have fired Bert.
I needed my own asshole.
Let's just both agree both of our lawyers said shitty stuff about both of us.
Nora was worse.
Jay called me an alcoholic.
Pulled the rug out from under me and you're putting me through hell.
You put me through hell during our marriage.
Oh, is that what that was? Hell?
And now you're gonna put Henry through this horrible thing so you could yet again get what you want.
It's not what I want. I mean, it's what I want, but it's what was. What's best for him.
Oh, well, I was wondering when you get around to Henry and what he actually wants.
Fuck off.
No, you fuck off. If you listen to your son or anyone, then he'd tell you that he'd rather live here.
Stop putting your feelings about me onto Henry.
He tells me he likes it better here.
He tells you because he knows it's what you want to hear.
He tells me you're on the phone all the time. You don't even play with him.
Because I'm going through a divorce in LA and trying to direct a play in New York, which closed because I wasn't there. It was a huge opportunity.
Fighting for something you don't even want.
And we are back on Cinemajaw, hanging out with James D'Amato from One Shot Podcast. Do listen to it, Jawheads. But he doesn't just podcast. Since we've seen you, James, you're an author now.
That's true.
Tell us about this.
Several books. So I do the Ultimate RPG Guide series for Adams Media, an imprint of Simon and Schuster. They are accessories to help you and your role-playing experience. The first one was the Ultimate Character Backstory Guide, which has exercises and prompts to help you develop a more complex and interesting backstory for your character. I went on to do the Gameplay Guide, which I talk about how to approach RPGs as a storytelling experience, techniques that you can use to enhance your experience at the table and kind of treat it artistically and have that elevate your play. Then I published an anthology featuring many really talented designers called the Ultimate Micro RPG Book, which has role-playing games that are 2 pages long each. There are 40 games in that book, especially like if you've never played an RPG before or you're introducing it to someone for the first time. That book is fantastic.
Oh, wow.
I guarantee there is something in there that you will enjoy. Great for kids too. Great with if you're playing with kids. And my most recent is the Ultimate RPG Game Master's World Building Guide, which is about world building. Again, like the backstory guide, it has prompts, exercises, and mini games that will help you develop a setting for role playing. Or, you know, if you're a writer or perhaps writing a movie of some kind, it will help you flesh out the world and universe of your fiction to make things feel more interesting, more cohesive, and give you a lot of dynamic storytelling tools.
If we were going to send people to buy these books, where would it be the best place that would help you out the most to get them from?
So, I mean, like you can check for my books on the World Builders charity store. That is kind of like, at least that goes to charity. Those copies are also signed, which is good. But really, you can get them anywhere books are sold. Like I am going to be in your big box brick and mortar stores. I'll be on all of the online retailers and probably your favorite indie brick and mortar bookstore. So,
dude, I was just in Barnes and Noble and I'm pretty sure I saw the World Builder book.
Yeah, I bet you did. We are everywhere. So
awesome.
It is not hard to find these books.
Congrats, dude.
And again, James, where should we send them online to listen to the podcast?
You can head to oneshotpodcast.com. You can listen on the site. Also, we are wherever you get your podcasts, whatever app or service we're going to be there. You can just search for One Shot. You can search for Campaign Skyjacks or James D'Amato. It's all going to be there. Also, if you've got kids in the house and you need something to listen to with them, I recommend Skyjack's Courier's Call. It is a spin-off of my ongoing Skyjack series. It is an all ages show, great to listen to in the car when you're taking them to school or, you know, really when you've got a moment of downtime.
Do it, everybody.
Absolutely. Matt, before we get to trivia and before we talk about the movie Pig, we threw a few items into the fish tank. Let's open up that fish tank. Matt, Phil is
empty.
Gone. It's
Where
empty.
The hell is he?
And
He's
it's a complete mess in here too. I don't know how he swims.
This is worse than your scorpion box.
I know. We've gotten really cruel.
Absolutely. All right. The first question we threw in there, just to confirm, Leonardo DiCaprio, Critters. Which one was it? It is Critters 3 was his big screen debut. Came out in 1991, I believe.
It's a great trivia question there.
It is streaming on the Stars app or
platform,
channel, whatever you want to call these things nowadays. So if you do have Stars, check out Critters 3. The other question we threw in was your name streaming on any of the big services. It is not anywhere for free anyways with a subscription. You can rent it as cheap as $2.99 on Google Play, YouTube, or Vudu.
Okay.
So
cool.
any one of those three for $2.99. James is saying it's well worth it.
Absolutely worth the money. Buy it. You don't even need to rent it. Buy it.
I'm going to watch it tonight when I get home. Seriously.
It rewards rewatching. So it's a good one.
I'm excited for it too.
Yeah.
Because I love when I'm doing the research on hidden gem movies like this. And I was seeing this pop up and now James gives it his seal of approval. We got to check it out.
Yeah. If you like Groundhog Day, ooh, are you going to love this movie? Oh, you're going to love this movie so much.
Also, wanted to look up the last time we talked to James on Cinemajaw because we alluded to the fact that it had been quite a long time. And yes, 6 years have passed since James has last been on Cinemajaw. Episode 228, way back in 2015 was the last time you were on this podcast, James.
That is so unbelievable to me. Isn't it amazing? We're all still around in podcasting.
It's
despite
great.
Everything.
Right.
Yep.
I was going to say, what a world difference 2015 to today is, right? It seems like a different freaking planet, different timeline.
Matt, before we close this fish tank, we do got some feedback.
Yes, we do, Ryan. This one comes from Joel Copeling via Twitter, who wrote us to talk about our Marvel TV show discussion. He said, just an FYI to Rye and Matt K, but mostly Rye. Yes, you'll need to watch all the Marvel shows to understand the movies. That was confirmed by Feige at the December investors meeting. For instance, WandaVision directly ties into the next Spider-Man and Doctor Strange movies. Oh, and it seems that from afar that Loki may tie into the next Ant-Man, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier may have links to Shang-Chi and so forth. It's a weird new world for sure, but some film critics may need to humor Marvel for a while. Agree and disagree here with Joel. Yes, they all tie in, but I think that the movies stand alone. If you watch the TV shows, it's going to make them that much richer of an experience. But I don't think you need to watch the TV shows to understand what's going on. At least if they're doing the movies properly, you shouldn't have to. But again, it adds so much that really you should. And I agree with him in that film critics and sourpusses like Rye the movie guy should just get off their high horses and enjoy some great television. WandaVision was freaking amazing. The other shows have been highly decent. I would say Loki is the strongest out of that bunch. It's heating up. I think it's so much fun. No doubt. I'm not going to argue with that. I preferred WandaVision, but Loki's still going, so I may change that tune.
All right. That was everything in the fish tank. Let's close this thing up. Matt, Nick Cage, disheveled, living in the woods of Oregon with a truffle pig. That premise alone must have been what got this latest film, simply titled Pig, greenlit. But did writer-director Michael Sanorski add more to the premise to give us something special? Or is this just another strange Nick Cage film destined for the bargain bin? Matt and I got a reservation at the finest restaurant in Portland to find out.
What are you thinking?
I remember every meal I ever cooked. I remember every person I ever served. You live your life for them, and they don't even see you. You don't even see yourself. We don't get a lot of things to really care about. Who has my pig?
Pig opens with Rob, played by Nick Cage, out in the wilderness with a truffle pig. A truffle pig, for those who don't know, is a domestic pig used for locating and extracting the fruit bodies of the fungi known as truffles. These truffles are used in the gourmet food market and go for a pretty penny. Thus, a really good truffle pig can be quite valuable. Because of this, a theft occurs. Someone knocks Rob unconscious and steals his pig. When Rob comes to the next morning, he has one mission and one mission only. Find the person responsible for taking his pig and get it back. The story gets kind of strange as we see the hidden behind-the-scenes world of fine dining and the world-renowned chefs. However, it does not go off the rails like I would have liked, nor does the hidden world we get a peek at get explored enough. One scene that sees Nick Cage go to the basement of a restaurant for a Fight Club-like scene made no sense to me, and I got to ask you, Matt, if it made sense to you. The mystery here of the stolen pig was predictable. Now, Nick Cage's performance was quiet, yet overdramatic. This mainly comes from strange glares he makes into the camera. Maybe he was paid on how many words he actually speaks, because he does not say a whole lot in the film. They were trying to save money here. I found Pig to be a strange little film that did not go anywhere. Matt, what did you make of it?
Wow. This is a case, Jawheads, where Rye the movie guy is just dead wrong. I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. Pig is my favorite movie of the year so far.
What? Holy cow.
I loved it. It is a movie that shows a hidden underworld in this fine dining like underbelly, where they're literally like pulling storage racks aside in a basement of a restaurant to go into a secret cave. The Fight Club scene, it's a little confusing, but I think I understand what was going on there. He's trying to find the source of who took the pig. The themes at work in this movie are the themes of grief, loss, and acceptance, letting go. There's also a thing about proteges and father and sons going on. And the speech that Nicolas Cage delivers at the beginning of the third act when he comes across an ex-sous chef of his is devastating. It is the most nihilistic, existential thing outside of French cinema that I've ever seen. It's probably one of Nicolas Cage's best 10 seconds, or not 10 seconds, 2 minutes of film, maybe ever. I love Pig. Loved it.
Wow. I can't believe this. We haven't been this crossed in a long time, where I'm just not on board fully with Pig. I will say that particular scene you're alluding to here was what I have listed as my jaw-dropping moment. It is the highlight of the film for me by far. Yes, that was a standout moment for sure. But back to this Fight Club scene. We're doing spoiler free here, so we're just going to go a little into this. But basically, Nick Cage goes to the basement of a restaurant in which men are fighting. From my understanding, maybe I missed the dialogue here, but from my understanding is everybody in that Fight Club scene works at a restaurant. These are people that either are chefs or bus boys. Yeah. Their requirement to be in this Fight Club scene is that they have to work in the restaurant scene. Did I have that right?
Yes, you did.
And then he doesn't fight back. I didn't understand the point of why he went there just to get punched by a guy. It just didn't. What did it actually accomplish? I completely missed. I was
You are
befuddled.
making this movie sound more amazing the more you complain about this scene. I can't wait. This is a movie that they've kind of made 3 times already, including this one.
It's like Mandy, but with a pig.
I mean, yeah. It's like John Wick, but with a pig.
Yes, it's very
it's like
John
The
Wick.
Protector. It's this movie. They keep making it, and it keeps being good. I say keep making it, and now we got a weird Nick Cage one. This sounds like it's going to be a delight.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Ryan. As much as I hate to say it, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that scene just to kind of understand exactly what his goal was. But what I think he was doing there was taking a beating in order to satisfy somebody, in order to get information from that somebody. He had to take the licking in order to kind of appease somebody who thought he wasn't worth crap anymore.
Well, he sure does take a beating. And that would be my other jaw-dropping moment, is the makeup done on his face. He gets this bruise that is just tough to look at on
Did you not
screen.
just want him to take a shower the whole movie? I was like, dude, take a freaking shower. And coming from Matt Kay, that means something, folks. It really does.
Yeah, I just wanted the film to explore the whole world more than it actually did. I think it just was short in there. It was like, well, what exactly happened? I don't think it went far enough. I wanted it to explore more. Then maybe I would have been on board.
Here's the thing that makes this movie so amazing for me. I love when there are secret worlds that are just beneath ours, that are completely plausible. And like we were saying with time travel movies, they play by their own rules. Like that's what makes the John Wick movies so great. It's not the double taps and the headshots. Those are fun. They're cool. But what makes it cool is the secret economy of the assassins, the little guilds, the little factions within their world, their hotel, their rules. That's what makes that such a cool world to be in. And that's why Pig was so fun, because it shows you this hidden world of fine dining where there's a secret economy, there's a secret fight club, there's all these things where like people outside of it don't know. And I agree with you, Ryan. I could have spent another 3 or 4 movies worth of time in that world. And I really hope maybe they explore it with the second Pig movie. I don't see how it's possible, but damn it, I hope it happens, because if they don't write it, I will. That's how much I love that idea.
Did you like Nicolas Cage's performance?
Nicolas Cage is the perfect actor for this. I mean, who else do you get for this movie? No one exists. Nick Cage is at a point in his career where he can take on these bizarre indie movies like what was the one he did with The Color? I didn't even see
Color Out of Space.
Color Out of Space and Mandy. I think he's entered a new phase of his career. He's gotten past the witchcraft and crappy, like, he doesn't get those jobs anymore. Now Nicolas Cage is like truly interesting as he's become this character actor. I loved him in this. Loved him. I love a good stoic performance too.
Yeah. And talk about stoic performance. How about the pig? Incredible.
That was a really pretty pig. Seriously. Best looking pig I've ever seen.
I love movies where I actually learn something, and having a guy with a truffle pig looking for these truffles in the wilderness and then supplying these fine dining restaurants with these ingredients, it does happen. And that was rather interesting. So I give it credit for that as well.
Here's something you said to me. We don't have to beat this movie up. We wanted to keep this segment a little shorter. You said that the movie was boring. Like it didn't grab you or something like this, right?
Yeah, it needed to go a little bit deeper. It just stayed on the surface.
I mean, this is coming from a guy who had First Cow as his favorite movie of 2019.
Oh, completely different movie.
First Cow is so different. Slow. You talk about Primer being boring. First Cow is like watching paint dry.
No, completely different.
I liked First Cow, but it is a slow movie.
But to be fair, a movie that is more boring than Primer is a cinematic achievement. Like that's huge. So I can see someone, especially someone very pedantic, getting excited.
Yeah. Well, Pig is not more boring than any other film. I liked it a lot.
Do you got a movie poster quote for us, Matt?
This is the John Wick of truffle pig movies.
I went with Babe, Nick Cage in the City.
Okay. How many Jaws?
Right? Some pig.
I'm at a even 2 Jaws here for Pig. Matt?
Four Jaws. My favorite movie of 2021 so far. Pig.
Wow.
Loved it. I'm going to watch it again, probably tonight or tomorrow.
That is exciting.
I'm very much looking forward to it.
Pig will be released, limited release, July 16th, Jawheads. If you see it, you agree, disagree, want to comment on this review, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw, or you can email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. All right, Matt, we always like to end these podcasts with some fun trivia, and you can hear the music playing, which means just that. We just reviewed Pig, so we're playing farm animal movie trivia. Right. James, you're our guest. You get to choose if you want to go first. Let Matt go first. There are steals, and if you get hung up on any question, you get one rescue. I'll help you out with a clue.
I am going to go first in hopes that the first question is easiest.
They start off easy. Here we go. Question one over to James. Name the movie that stars Jake Gyllenhaal and features Frank, a large imaginary rabbit.
Nope, you're not going to get me on this one.
Ooh.
I don't know this one.
Ouch. That's a good time travel movie too. Donnie Darko.
Oh, right.
Yes, Frank, the imaginary rabbit. 1-0, Matt K. I don't like this. I don't like where this is going, James. Question 2 over to Matt.
I haven't won many of these.
Matt, name the 2000 film. It was a stop motion animated film about Rocky, voiced by Mel Gibson, a rooster that may help others in a major escape plan.
Okay. When you talk about foul and escaping in the same sentence, one picture comes to mind, and it better be Chicken Run.
That is correct. Chicken Run.
I should have gone second. God damn it.
2-0, Matt K. Question 3 over to James. Before Bong Joon-ho made his Oscar-winning film Parasite, he made this movie about a giant pig for Netflix.
I don't know this, but it sounds like it's going to be fun.
Oh, you got to see this one, James.
If you're excited for Nicolas Cage's pig movie.
Get warmed up with this one. It's a Bong Joon-ho.
I have no idea what movie this is. Nope.
Oh man, I
Matt.
know this one. Tilda Swinton's in it too, James. You will like it. It's called Okja.
That is correct.
And very anime-esque. I think if you watch it, it's almost plays out like a live-action anime.
Question 4 over to Matt K. Matt, name the talk show host who voices Peter Rabbit in the 2018 and 2021 Peter Rabbit films.
He's a talk show host?
Correct.
Okay. I've seen the Peter Rabbit trailers. I'm guessing it's not Joe Rogan.
This was Matt's big joke.
Yeah, that was, man. It fell flat.
Yeah, it really did.
Guys.
I mean, the Joe Rogan
One wants
jokes
to have
are...
to think about Joe Rogan.
I don't know. Well, it's a British. Oh man, who's that guy? Crap, I don't know his name. It's actually Conan O'Brien. It's Conan.
Let me steal this.
That is incorrect, James. You got a chance for a steal and get on the board.
That's James Corden, also an objectionable man.
That is correct. James Corden is correct. It is 3-1. James is on the board. Question 5 is over to him. James, who played Hitler and directed the 2019 film Jojo Rabbit?
Okay. That is Taika Waititi.
That is correct.
Yeah.
He is rolling now.
What is that? What does that have to do with farm animals?
Rabbit, Jojo Rabbit. You see how Rabbit was in the title.
It's a stretch.
That's a stretch. Yeah. We're reaching for that one.
Hey, it's 3-2. That's the good thing. Question 6 over to Matt K. Name the 2015 movie that was based on a British TV show created by Nick Park. It was about farm animals traveling to the city to rescue their farmer.
It's the second Nick Park question we've gotten after Chicken Run. All right, read it one more time.
2015 movie based on a British TV show created by Nick Park. It was about farm animals traveling to the city to rescue their farmer.
Shaun the Sheep.
That is correct. Wow.
I know my Nick Park.
It is now 4-2, Matt, and there's 2 questions left. James, you need them both. Question 7 is over to you. Who voiced the spider, Charlotte, in the 2016 adaptation of Charlotte's Web?
Boy, there's a 2016 adaptation. I'm going to take a hint on this one.
Wow. A rescue on question 7. Your clue, James, is she is a pretty woman.
Oh, that's not going to help me. All
pretty
right.
woman in quotes.
No, I understand. I don't remember the name of actors for films ever. So that's just not going to work for me. Julia Roberts?
Yes, he is on the board. He's still alive.
Oh, God.
4-3. Last question over to Matt. He can win it or maybe give James a chance for a tie. Matt, feel the tension. Here we go.
I'm ready.
Name the 2009 film that starred George Clooney, Jeff Bridges, Ewan McGregor, and Kevin Spacey. It is about the U.S. military trying to employ psychic powers as a weapon.
I know this one, James, but I'm really curious.
I know this one too. It's fine. We're good.
Ryan's rescue me. I just want to hear what your clue
what's
is.
the rescue?
Your rescue is it has a farm animal in the title.
Oh, wow. That's great.
That's nothing. That's less than nothing.
I'm trying to help you, James. Stop giving me hell. I didn't want to give him too good of a clue.
All right. The Men Who Stare at Goats.
That is correct.
Oh.
The Men Who Stare at Goats.
That was like the MK Ultra experiments or something, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Matt does win this one. Can we get a virtual handshake here? He does win 5-3.
Boom.
If it came down to a tie, a jawbreaker, this question would have been over to James. Imagine if the game was on the line. This question would have been to James. James Corden, funny guy or annoying guy?
Absolutely annoying guy.
That is correct. He's very annoying.
James, you would have won.
The real jawbreaker is this age of James Corden closest to. Matt, you got to guess.
I mean, okay,
how
so
old he is.
I know who we're talking about. He's on the younger
I hope
side.
so.
He's certainly probably the youngest of the major talk show hosts. So I would say he's probably just out of his 30s. Let's say he's like 42.
Lock him in at
That might be
42,
old.
James.
I was going to say exactly 42. So
He's 42. He's 42. So what's that?
Is he
Damn.
really?
He really is. He's 42 years old.
Yeah, well, that guy is so 42.
He's just 42 all over the place.
I was watching him on the Bad Cats movie. You look at him, you see his eyes, like, oh, that man's 42. And that was before he was 42.
Unbelievable. He just looks 42. He's done nothing he can do about it.
There's a Douglas Adams joke in here somewhere, but I'm just going to leave it alone.
Well,
that probably wouldn't mean
us,
anything anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It brings us to the end of a great Jaw. And first and foremost, we got to thank our guest, James D'Amato. It's been too long. Thanks for coming back on Cinemajaw.
Been way too long. Thank you so much for having me back. What a delight.
We're going to have you back again when we can all be in the same room, which should be pretty soon, I think.
Hopefully, yeah. Let me know when you watch Your Name. It's so good.
We will.
Absolutely.
Totally.
We will. Matt, we also got to thank the sponsors.
Yeah, thanks to Overcast and the Chicago Podcast Co-op, who help us get great sponsors like them.
If you would like to support Cinemajaw, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
And while you're at it, hit subscribe. One extra button from you helps us out a whole lot.
Yes. And if you want to support, take that one step further, you can always join our family of Patreons where we do exclusive content just for the Patreons.
Yeah, actually, it's a really lot of fun. We've been dropping bonus podcasts. What did we just do?
We just finished up our second 80s retro review, Thief.
Yeah, and then we're going to be doing The Last Dragon. So yeah, get on board, Jawheads. Join us on Patreon. Any level gets you access to the bonus content.
Absolutely. Until next week, I'm Ryan, the movie guy.
I'm Matt Kay.
And keep on jawing about the movies.
That's a wrap. Thanks, James.
Thank you so much.
This is fun. This will drop on Monday. And
Who has my pick?